Ladies and gentlemen, PR people, fellow journalists, welcome. It's interesting that a PR person takes it upon themselves to define what the news media is. Should a PR person be responsible for defining what the news media is when ultimately they use the news media to sell their advertising messages? As Nikki Hager said, journalism is a vocation. It is not something that necessarily changes with technology in terms of its core purpose. And that purpose is to inform the public about important issues and to hold power account, not to sell PR messages. But unfortunately in today's media, throughout the Western world, at least 60% of what you see in the newspapers and online, possibly also, and in the news, is from PR. It's fronted as news, but it's generated by our friends over there. So one could ask, is this really what the news media is about? Is this really holding powers to account? And we'll see now. You see, human rights and journalism actually have a lot in common. Human rights standards were created to protect people against the excess of power. The news media has a similar purpose to human rights. As the world-renowned journalist Robert Fisk says, the purpose of journalism is to monitor the centres of power. The watchdog role of journalism is well known. It should shine a light on human rights violations so the world can see them and understand them and act to prevent them. There is perhaps no more serious violation of human rights than the killing of human beings, which is why the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was written and agreed upon shortly after World War II. People were so horrified by what happened that leaders around the world wanted to prevent anything like it from happening again. It stands to reason then that the news media should be at its most critical when decisions are made that lead to violence. It should be even more critical when it comes to war. Human rights are never more in danger and abused than in times of war. The illegal invasion of Iraq has led to the death of at least 800,000 Iraqis, and many more injured or made refugees. The occupation of Afghanistan has led to 30,000 civilians being killed so far, and many times they're injured or made refugees. Add to this immense picture of human suffering that the human rights infamies such as the abuse of prisoners in Abu Ghraib, the enhanced interrogations, or in honest language, torture. Surely, given the scale of these human rights violations, our media should be scrutinising with all its ability New Zealand's military involvement with the US in Afghanistan. But it's only now that the SAS are accused of handing over prisoners to torturers the media cautiously discusses the reality there and our involvement, and I say cautiously. In a recent research project, we did a content analysis of newspapers around the country focusing on New Zealand's deployments of the SAS. I was not able to identify one editorial that outrightly opposed the government's decision to send our troops or that did not support the US-UK bombardment of Afghanistan. In all, the New Zealand media has a rather accepting attitude of Western wars. The news media did, however, focus on Afghanistan recently when one New Zealand soldier was killed there. Then it became front-page stuff because one of our own was killed. While the soldier's death is tragic, I haven't seen a front-page story about the tens of thousands of Iraqis and Afghanis who have been displaced, nor a complex feature article analysing human rights issues currently in Afghanistan. Why not? If the role of journalism, as I said in the beginning, is to monitor and hold to account the centres of power, one would think the situation in Afghanistan should be of the utmost attention. Why isn't it then? As Robert Fisk points out, the media has developed a parasitic dependence on government sources and tends to give less or no space to oppositional or dissenting voices. This is a serious problem because the news media is not meant to naively trust what the governments say, but to challenge them with opposing voices. That way the public benefit from an informed debate. We are fortunate to have a few journalists that have paid attention. For example, John Stevenson and the wonderful work he has done. But overall, the mainstream media has failed to shine an honest, unbiased light on the reality of the situation in Afghanistan and the numerous human rights violations that are still taking place there. As Robert Fisk also says, journalists should always be on the side of the powerless, of the victims. It seems to me the New Zealand media prefers cozying up to power. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And thank you for Amnesty for the recent Freedom Week campaign. Great job. First, to begin, first, thanks to the journalists and the communication professionals and to the students that are here today. And thank you to the misled and mistaken for coming. I'd just like to address a few of their points. Firstly, bomber, GST and John Key. Yes, that's colourful, but it's not relevant. We're talking about human rights today.
It's relevant if you're poor.
All Blacks, sex wrong. It's very colourful, but it's not relevant. We're talking about human rights today. And snake oil merchants and bodybuilding advertisements. No, it's colourful, but it's not relevant. We're talking about human rights today. Your argument failed to address the news media create more heat and light on human rights issues. And I suggest you try again at the end. Josh, human rights were created to protect people against those in power or abuses. Yes, I agree. Should the New Zealand media be critical? Yes, they should be. And I thank you. And I thank you in particular for a reason I'll explain later. Right. So Jane has given you the clear examples of Luke Borra and Kiwi Blog, and Luke Cheng on the prison issue. Derek, excuse me. You must understand that this mass media conglomerate that Martin Bradbury has rambled on about is no longer the sole member of the news media. This is not 1930, this is not 1970, and it's not 1990 either. This is 2007. Ladies and gentlemen, and the news media is now vast and inclusive.
2010.
Or 2010. Point taken.
Yeah. 5 points off.
The negative team doesn't describe our media. They haven't described our media. They've described a narrow ideological view. Today, ladies and gentlemen, and I quote the esteemed Martin Hurst of the finest journalism school in the country, news is now a conversation. From News Corp to the Northern Advocate, from Dominion Post to David Farrar and his Kiwi blog, Whale Oil to the Waikato Times comment section. There is information, there is more transparency, there is more debate, and there is more light. The negative team. Excuse me briefly.
You're the negative team.
Thank you. Thank you again. I'd like to commend the ways in which the news media have provided debate, provoked discussion, and brought to bear many crucial issues. For example, who can remember Reverend Ron Givens? He is, as I'm sure you remember, a prison chaplain who visited Auckland to describe the 3 strikes bill in California. Now, California has had a 3 strikes bill since 1994. That's 16 years, and Ron Givens gave a crucial description of that bill and its history and effect in California. Ron described the fiscal cost to California, he described the social cost to the families and communities, and he described the effect on the behaviour in prisons. And who created light on these human rights issues? Well, once again, I'd like to thank the news media, but also like to thank, as I said earlier, the second speaker of the affirmative team, who published the breaking story on Te Wahanui and brought to light the issue on the 14th of May 2010. Thank you, Mr. Gale. But did it end there? No, it didn't. In the interest of light, debate, clarity and knowledge, Dr. Ron Givens' testimonial was given by the news media, TV3 News, 6 p.m, May 16th, the news media Radio New Zealand, interviewing Ron on May 16th, News Media Whale Oil by Cameron Slater, and countless more. So as you will remember, there is light through debate, there is light through discussion, and that's what we have today with all these new media, and every other media that constitutes the new media, if you follow me. Again, we thank the news media for their breadth of views, information, and discussion that they bring us in 2010, and the light which they bring on human rights issues. Thank you.